For 7 terms between 1934 and 1950, Vito Marcantonio represented East Harlem in the United States House of Representatives. He acted as floor leader for major civil rights legislation, submitted 5 bills for Puerto Rico's independence, led the fight against the Cold War, and rallied to prevent the passage of the anti-labor Taft-Hartley Act. In his last term, he cast the sole votes against both the Korean War and the contempt citations handed down by the House Committee on Un-American Activities. Marcantonio lived his entire life in East Harlem. Through his creation of a coalition of East Harlem's Italian American, Puerto Rican, and African American communities, as well as the mobilized support of the left, he became the nation's most electorally successful radical of the last century. Marcantonio died of a massive heart attack just steps away from New York City Hall. Despite the fact that he was found with a crucifix in his pocket, the man known to his constituents as our Marc and the bread of the poor was denied a Catholic burial by Cardinal Francis Spellman solely because of his political activism. Following a funeral procession through East Harlem that saw thousands lining the streets to say goodbye, Marcantonio was laid to rest in New York City's historic Woodlawn Cemetery, just steps away from the grave of his mentor, Fiorello LaGuardia. 59 years later, a group traveled to his gravesite to honor the memory of this fighter for justice and defender of human rights.
Black or white or tan, ain't the reason why.
San Vito of East Harlem, pray for us. San Vito, bread of the poor, pray for us. San Vito, crucified by Wall Street, pray for us. San Vito, martyr of McCarthyism, pray for us. From the jail cell wall, San Vito, deliver us. From the backyard crap game, San Vito, deliver us. From the loan shark's vig, San Vito, deliver us. From the drunken stupor, San Vito, deliver us. From TV and asthma, San Vito, protect us. From the social worker's visit, San Vito, protect us. From immigration raids, San Vito, protect us. From the landlord's greed, San Vito, protect us. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Well, here we are. It's wonderful to see everybody. And what's on my mind is the question of memorials. And this is in part really certainly a memorial. We're participating in a memorial. And you know, memorials are not sad and they're not happy. There's some mixture of that and there's something more, for sure. And the only time really we can be sad about a death, reasonably sad, is if the circumstances are somehow terrible. Other than that, it's part of life. We live our lives, and like everything else in the natural world, we pass back into the natural world. We're part of a cycle of living and dying, and it's natural, and I think we can accept that. What makes death so difficult is when the circumstances are terrible. When it was unjust, when it was too early, when it was unfair, when it was done by violence, when there wasn't care, that's when death becomes so difficult. And that's when memorials become even more important. Because we're here to remember. That's what we're here to do. We're here to remember. And we don't know if anyone, aside from us, really knows what we're doing. But it's reassuring to us. It's very reassuring to us that people don't forget. That's our immortality. That really is our immortality, are the people that remember well of us. And in the case of Marcantonio, his death occurred in a way that is disturbing to us. And I do think that we have a responsibility to fix that in some way to the degree that we're able to do that. And we do that for him and his memory, but we also do it for each other so that we can be reassured that the same might be done for us and other people that we love. That we're taking that time and we're doing something to repair something. It's about repairing something. And we have a certain power to do that. And that's what we're doing today. We're asserting ourselves collectively, because I think this needs to be done collectively. We can do some of this on our own, but fundamentally the great rites of passage are done collectively, because it's part of the human condition. It's part of the human condition, all of this. And so we do this together with other human beings to reassure each other that we're human and that we're going to act as well as humans can act. We can't do miracles, we can't change a great deal, but there's always something we can do. And I think today we're doing really quite a lot. The circumstance of Marcantonio's death were, to me, extremely disturbing. A wonderful woman that knew Marcantonio very well, Annette T. Rubenstein, who was a great colleague of his and a great supporter of his, and wrote a wonderful memorial to him, I Vote My Conscience, the writings of Vito Marcantonio. And she repaired a lot by doing that. She was blacklisted, lost her job as a principal, the founding principal of the school, blacklisted, no chance of a job. Her mother was blacklisted, lost her job. Well, what did she do? She went to the library and wrote I Vote My Conscience, which was excerpts from Marcantonio's speeches in Congress. What a wonderful book. And with Roberto and myself, we worked on this together, and there's a second edition of that, which you can get from Calandra. Everyone should really wants to have that, believe me. And, but I think once Annette said to me, she goes, I'm always having this problem. To what extent I'm Jewish and to what extent I'm American? So she says, well, I'm thinking now, this was very late before she died, she goes, I'm realizing now I'm more Jewish than I realize. And I said, why? She said, because when America does something wrong, it makes me angry. But when Israel does something wrong, I'm ashamed. And I realized recently I might be a little more Catholic than I realize still, you know, because I really am ashamed of what the Catholic Church did to deny Marcantonio a burial. A really good person, by every standard that the church could teach, coming from the Beatitudes, coming from the very best parts, the corporal acts of mercy, that he lived that in a day-to-day way. It probably is part of the reason why he died when he was 51 years old, not even 52. His heart broke, partly from overwork and partly from all the attacks that he was enduring and all the losses that were around him at every point. So, in some way, that's something we have to pay attention to. But you know, there's another interesting side that Annette raised to me. She said, you know, she remained friends with Miriam Sanders, Marcantonio's wife. And she said to her, at one point, Annette said to Miriam, he said, what a shame the funeral was, it was the burial. And Miriam said, no, it was, for me it was a good thing. She said, how could that be? She said, because I could be buried with him. You understand? Because if he was buried in a Catholic cemetery, she could not have been buried with him. We should remember these things. We should remember these things when we get a little bit too sentimental about things, you know, really. We need to be a little hard in the right places and soft in other places, but we need to remember. So, I think what we also have to think about is there are specifics. The Society, the Vito Marcantonio Forum, is such a gift and such a great success, and it's wonderful what a relatively small group of people, what we've accomplished so far. This is our 5th activity. We have people doing research. We have people doing research in the archives, like Lulu, looking at the letters to Marcantonio and reinventing that and performing the people from the letters. And it's just great stuff. But there's so much that hasn't been done yet about Marcantonio. My guess is he was the single most ardent, consistent, articulate, and effective spokesperson for the American immigrants. And we need to revisit that and see how he did that. How did he do that? And to notice that when he did that, he was also vice president of the American Committee for the Protection of the Foreign-Born, an organization, a national organization that has a systematic approach to honoring the immigrants, protecting their rights, helping them become American citizens within the context of recognizing their right to their own culture and languages. We don't have this today. We can't, who could think of a spokesperson in Congress for the immigrants today? People that can't vote, after all, right? You know, legal or not legal, whatever it may be, documented or undocumented. But this is what we have to think about. And I think what someone said today, that a cemetery is like a cemetery is like a park with footnotes. But really, this what we're talking about now is in footnotes. They're volumes and volumes and volumes, But when we think about the immigrants, we want to think about the Piccirilli brothers. 6 brothers came from Italy, and how much they gave back to them. They're the sculptors for the Lincoln Memorial. They're the sculptors for Patience and Fortitude at the library. The sculptors for these monuments that are here before us. All of the great contribution of the immigrants to America. You have to think of something else too. This is an extraordinarily beautiful place. It's a Gan Eden. Anyone? Where's Charles? A Gan Eden. He's the only one who knows. It's, Jerry knows. This is like paradise. This is a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful place. But who makes it beautiful? The Piccirilli brothers by the sculpturing, but all the workers that clean the place, that do the lawns, that do the landscaping, that take care of this in a day-to-day way. And in the process of organizing this great event, I got a phone call, or 2, from workers from Woodlawn. What's their story? They learned about Vito Marcantonio because they work here. And they looked it up, and they were very impressed. Now they call me because they say, we have been having labor difficulties with Woodlawn. And what's happened here is what's happened throughout the United States of America, is the outsourcing of union jobs by workers who have some job security, who have pensions, who have paid vacations, and who have paid holidays, and have medical insurance, and they're being replaced by outsourced workers that have none of that and are paid very little. So the number of union workers has shrunken down to a remarkably small number. Now, this is a lovely day, but again, we have to be real as we're looking around. And to say that all of this beauty, all of this production is the result of labor. All of this comes from human labor. All of these people that had monuments built, they got their wealth from workers. So let's not get overly gaga and too sentimental. We can enjoy this beauty, and there's no reason why we shouldn't. We need that in order for ourselves, because there's a lot of suffering and difficulty in life. So we need beauty. We need to go out. We need to see things. We need to get together. But as we're doing this, we also need to be reasonably, not to lose our reason and our critical capacities. This means so much to me, as you can imagine. I started this whole quest with Marcantonio so long ago. I think it was around 1975. And I intend to continue this. I always have intended to continue this to the end. Because I do think that he was a model. I like him for so many reasons. But the one reason I like him so much, and really probably love him so much, is that he was so principled, but he also was practical. That he knew how to maintain his principles under terribly difficult circumstances and not waver and not break. But at the same time, always to find ways to move forward in 2 ways. To move forward politically, to build a movement, and to speak out, and to create coalitions, but also in an immediate way to pay attention to human need. And I think that's the formula that I hold dear. I certainly don't live up to that to the degree that Marcantonio did on anything like the scale of that, but to me, that is a model for a noble life, for an admirable life. People that just get involved with principle, there's something very self-serving in it. There's a religious business going on there. They can feel better about themselves, It's a kind of reaction formation, then do what they want to do. In the meantime, they're ignoring all kinds of need and not contributing to making the world better. On the other hand, there are people that go to make the world different or better, and they walk over people, they forget the people closest to them, they neglect their children, they play, they do terrible things, you know. But I think Marcantonio got it right. And it's a model, really, also, I suspect, for politics, for real politics. Not just to make a parade, a pageant, but to really commit to working with the people who need the change the most. We have to believe that. And Annette again, she used to like to quote Brecht. She said, a revolution is not for those who want it, it's for those who need it. And if anyone is interested in real change, it's our responsibility to be as close as we reasonably can be with the people who need that much change and offer what we have to give to them by staying close with them. Vito Marcantonio did that. I'm so glad we're here today. I'd like us to think about doing this next year, rain or shine, and continue this as a tradition. We can make our own traditions. It's very easy to break traditions. We don't eat Sunday dinner as a family together. That tradition is gone. You know what I mean? One tradition after another is gone. But we can make our own traditions. We don't have to necessarily go back to the old ones. We could if we wish to, I think. We can try that. But we can also create our own traditions. So visiting Marcantonio's gravesite and memorializing his life and thinking of how the spirit of Marcantonio, there is a spirit. That's why we have to do this together. If we don't do this together, we don't have a spirit. We just have ourselves, which is frightening, at least for me, you know. But if we're together, we feel strong and we feel capable of thinking better and working more effectively. So it's wonderful to be here today. You know, before we get started with all the comments, we want to put the flowers on the tomb, and also we want to follow the Jewish custom of putting a stone on the monument here, because it's a reminder that people were here. And we can add to this, maybe they'll be here next year, and we can add to that and add to that and add to that. So maybe everyone would like to come up, but I'm here, I'm close. I'm going to put mine here, and then we want to go around and hear everyone's comments.
He's right.
Oh, it's beautiful. Very nice. Thanks. Very good. Beautiful.
Oh, that was beautiful.
Lovely. Applause. Wonderful. Good. So,
You know, I always start crying, so I'm going to try not to. It's just so moving to be here. Thank you, Jerry, you know, for being spearheading this. As some of you know, he was my father's closest friend, the man he admired, and that I remember him as a little girl. And it's just so wonderful to be here. It's like going full circle from 116th Street up to the Bronx. You know, my father's buried now in the Bronx. And then to have Miriam, you know, here also, who I remember as a child. I didn't remember when she passed away, though, in 1965. And I remember her as being a very lovely person, very tall, and very un-Italian. She was very thin with the tweed suits, you know, very American, as my mother would say. But she was a lovely, lovely person. And I know that a while back I saw a video, I was telling people before of Marc walking down the street, the old campaign photo, and it brought back my memory as like 5 years old or 6 years old of seeing him walk. And so to be here today, it's just wonderful. Thank you so much.
Roberto.
Well, someone once said to me that you don't find your mission finds you. And there was a strange series of coincidences where Marcantonio kept reoccurring in my life from 1986 to 1992 that led to someone giving me Jerry's book, and then my meeting Jerry, and then our collaborating. And I feel like, again, Jerry has changed my life. Vito Marcantonio has reconstituted me. It's sort of what I've been looking for, and I'm glad to be part of a group that's bringing him, helping to rewrite history and bringing him out to the world. I'm also a public policy guy, and also not a big fan of some of the portrayals of Italian Americans, and I feel like he's significant in that you can do a public policy case study about leadership, about, as Jerry would say, being effective for people without being elitist, being among the people, being organic to a neighborhood. So what we're all doing is significant in so many ways that I hope by the 60th anniversary we'll have more people here and we'll have major impacts from years to come. Thank you.
Well, first of all, Jerry, thank you very much for your beautiful comments. And what struck me most about what you said is how Marcantonio is an exemplar of what it means to live a noble life. And this is something, this value of literally giving one's life to the people and to advancing the rights of human beings. This is truly what's missing in our American society today. And I don't remember exactly when I discovered Marcantonio, but I mean his life. I think it was through reading about Covello that I discovered Marcantonio. And I remember as I was reading about them that I said to myself, how come Italian Americans and Americans don't know anything about these two wonderful people who brought about change not on a mass scale in the way Gandhi did, but they were very much Gandhi-like in terms of giving all of their life force and their energy to others. And the fact that they had this beautiful coalition, not only with the people, with LaGuardia, and truly work together, something that Italians are always accused of not being able to do very well. And that their beliefs just superseded all of whatever differences they may have had. Is just remarkable and inspiring.
I really love the way that you tied in his life with the labor situation that we have right now in the cemetery, and I hope that you could join forces with the workers. They need support, and I hope that in the lunch you have time to talk to them, and if not, we can send you information, because they make it possible to have this wonderful place. And I thank you for the invitation. It has been a wonderful morning. I never thought I was going to learn so much. So thank you for all this. And to all of you to have that passion to keep it alive. And we need people to keep fighting for the immigrants' rights. We have a situation right now in the nation. So we will love that he will keep inspiring us to find people that keep fighting for the rights of the immigrants. So let's keep Marcantonio alive.
I think the time that I discovered Vito Marcantonio was when we discovered you. But my husband was interested in Vito Marcantonio, and it was a time for me where I had done a lot of political work and never met other Italian Americans in that circle, was always recognized as Jewish instead of Italian American, because what would an Italian American be doing in progressive politics or feminist politics. And it gave me a great sense of pride that there was this history, although I was not familiar with it. And so then I spent time trying to familiarize myself with that history and identifying more strongly with that. And the idea of giving dignity and not giving, but, you know, kind of spotlighting the dignity of the worker, I think is really important to hang on to. And, you know, the working person, the immigrant, the people that we all are, and to sort of eviscerate some of those differences and just scratch the surface, and every one of us has just gotten here half an hour ago. So I thank you for keeping this going too.
You too.
For being very persevering in doing this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Adam?
I grew up hearing about him all the time and his life's work, and only in recent years I really appreciate everything that he's done, and you know, I'm really glad to be a part of what's going on. I didn't think that it would actually do as well as it did. You know, we've had this forum together since October 2011, so you know, I'm really happy with the way things have progressed, and I hope it continues, you know, and I'm sure it will, even long after we're gone. So, you know, I'm happy for the way things have gone, and I think it's a beautiful thing that we're all here today, and I'm just glad to be a part of it. You know, I thank everyone for being here.
What I came to appreciate very much about Marcantonio, besides what Jerry has said, are other two things, I guess. The courage with which he tackled the forces of conservatism at the time, and also his courage and how brave he was in taking conservative, racist, so on and so forth. And also his capacity of creating solidarities between different ethnic groups, which I think is not unique but special among politicians over every time, and especially in the time Marcantonio happened to live. And final comment, I think it's really too bad that the figure of Vito Marcantonio is completely unknown to Italian historians in Italy, and I think it would be very important to reconnect him to the history of the Italian labor movement, international in this case, Italian labor movement.
You don't read about him in the history books or, you know, stories of immigrants, heroes in history books, so it's nice to have a hero, especially in this day and age with politics, and you know, it's nice to look back at heroes, and Jerry has put him on the map again. And if you don't already know, but Jerry had a room named after him at Hostos Community College, where Jerry has been politically active in keeping the college open 30 years ago when they were going to close it down. So it's definitely raised interest in Vito Marcantonio, and also keeping his legacy alive among the students at Hostos that might not know who he is and see the room naming and see, wait, let me look into him and see what he's about. So I really appreciate all the work Jerry's doing to keep his name alive, and we have to continue with that effort.
Thank you.
There's a tradition in South America and the Spanish-speaking countries that when a great person passes away, or you're at his funeral, or you're at a memorial that we're having today, I will say his name, you say presente. I don't want to get choked up, because no, just give me 1 minute. So anyway, I'm going to say his name, and when I say his name, you go presente, okay? Okay, Vito Marcantonio?
Presente.
Vito Marcantonio?
Presente.
Vito Marcantonio?
Presente.
To you, beloved comrade, we make this solemn vow. The fight will go on. The fight will still go on. Like you, beloved comrade, we pledge our bodies now. The fight will